Hey everyone, welcome to the Download Podcast, episode 36. This week we're going to talk about video rentals and what it was like, the things we missed, the things we hated, the things we could have watched, and go from there. I hope you enjoy. It gives you a glimpse into what it was like when we used to go rent movies and games.
Far away time.
Yeah. Man, there's times I really wish that there was rental stores because especially with gas prices the way they are, it's like,
Yeah.
do I go get a game or do I fill up my gas tank? I don't know.
Well,
Pretty sure gas tank is at least somewhat more important.
Yeah, I think so too.
At least some days.
Some days. Some days you want to go to work to actually make money.
I will say this first. If you live in Bend, Oregon, you still have a chance because
Rent
they
movies.
have what is known as the last Blockbuster there.
Yep.
Great documentary on it. Great store. They've just moved in a whole bunch of Hollywood collectibles and stuff from movies and everything on there. If you live up in that area, you can actually still experience this fun.
Well, there's a couple places that are some places still do rentals, but it's different. I know that the one person I wanted to get on this episode, Adrian, of course, can't make it, but it's all right because he used to work at a Blockbuster back in the day. So his memories of things, but I know we've talked about if we ever open up some kind of store, we would have a rental side to it because he knows how that would work and it would be successful. I think you really could do a rental service. I mean, if Redbox works, which I haven't seen Redbox in however long because everything's.
We have one in town. That's how
I was about to
small
say it's
town we are.
in Walmart. I can't remember the last time I saw anybody use it, but they exist somewhere out there.
Still use it.
Yeah, we have one outside one of our convenience stores here in town. That's how small of a town we are.
So back in the day, what was some of y'all's fondest memories of going into a video rental store?
Well, when I took the boys, okay, both sets of boys, the older set and the younger set, it would be not only being able to see all the stuff that was available, it would be the stuff that I grew up with, the obscure stuff. And for them, it would be like, oh, look, this game is out. We can go and get this. Or, hey, what's this movie? And like, of course, for us, it was Blockbuster, in Oswego, which is 15 miles away. But we would, you'd have things like, oh, we can get snacks and stuff like that. It was almost a one-stop shop. If a proper video store had everything you needed in one shop, you wouldn't have to go and make multiple stops and everything like that. And that was one of the best parts for my wife and I, because we could be like, okay, we can get this movie, we can get this game, we can do these things. Oh, let's get these snacks, go home, boom, make an evening of it.
They had everything.
They had everything you needed if it was well done. And that's one of my best memories.
I mean, for me, it was really, there was two levels to it, right? Whenever I was a kid, it was just all about that experience, being able to go in there and then beg for the candy as you're leaving, and just being able to find a movie that you wanted to see. And usually it was always, that's how, if we missed something in theater, that was immediately how we went and saw it whenever it came out, right? You waited for something to come out on video. We'd go over to the video store, go pick up something that we, might have missed in theaters or something like that. And my parents just didn't really buy a whole lot of movies, so we didn't physically own a lot of stuff. So that was kind of how we caught up on that sort of deal. But then as I got older, like what you're saying, right? There was, whenever my wife and I were first together, there was a Hollywood Video that had a Quiznos literally attached to it. So, we would either walk over to the Quiznos and get our food first, or we'd go into the Hollywood Video and get our stuff there first. And then, we would just swap back and forth. And it was just, like you said, just a one-stop shop place where you go into one side, you get your entertainment, maybe you get some sugary things, go over to the other side, you get your dinner or whatever, or lunch, whatever it was that we were going to be having. And then you just hop in the car, head home, and man, you're covered, right? All because we're all sitting in that one same spot. So So yeah, and for that, it was all about just looking around and seeing what was out there that maybe we hadn't seen, or
Mhm.
just again, it was all about discovery, right? That was the big thing about video stores, right? That's what everybody remembers from all the box covers and everything, was discovering something maybe that you hadn't seen before, just by how weird and crazy or interesting or whatever the boxes might have been.
Well, and so for me, and I will go into the next part of this, but my two, I mean, considering you were talking about two, I had two that came up to mind. It's like, for one, going video rentals were a staple in my house. I mean, it's every Tuesday, every Friday.
Yeah.
Tuesday was the new releases. Friday was whatever we were going to do for the weekend. And coming off, Dad would pick us up from his house, go to Hollywood Video, go to Blockbuster, go to Showtime Video or whatever video store that was next to
Couple of
it,
hole in the wall places.
and just rent whatever, and then rent a couple movies, games, and but for me, there's two moments that stick out for me. One was my 8th grade year. I went to Hollywood Video to rent a game for the weekend, and I saw my buddy Jonathan Gutschall with his mom, and it was me and my dad and my sister. And he's like, "Hey Vince, what's going on?" And I was like, "Nothing. I'm going to rent a game for the weekend and stuff." And he goes, "Well, what are you looking at?" I said, "Well, there's this game called Suikoden. It's a RPG. Apparently, you get to build a castle. It's based off of, I mean, it's not. It's based off of this one story, but I can't remember what it was. I can't remember right now. But there was an anime I saw that was adapted from this, and I wanted to check it out. And I played that game. I like literally sat there from Friday to Sunday playing that game, staying up all night, playing it, going to sleep, having my dad wake me up early in the morning to fix my sleep schedule, only for me to do it again the next night.
Right.
Because that's what it was always. All right, you're not gonna sleep all day. You're gonna get up right now. We're gonna go have breakfast. I'm gonna run you until you go to bed at normal time. No, then I got back on the game and I continued to play it. And then Sunday come around, I'm like at the last dungeon, and come on,
The
so
last
much
something
stuff.
or other.
It's the Moon Empire, whatever. Scarlet Moon Empire. They're the castle, basically, and I'm like, I can't finish it because I gotta take it back to go because our rental's up. I made my dad re-rent it so I could just beat it again.
There you go.
Finish it to beat it. It's like, it was well worth it, because then eventually I bought the game. But there was that one, and then being able to rent anime at the Hollywood Video that we went to, that was right across the street from Southeastern High School, and a lot of that was because of our friend Jimmy. He was the one who came in and got the district managers to actually start ordering that stuff to put into the store. And it was only like a one little section. It was originally just a row, and then it got to like a whole section, like a whole shelf, and then it was like a whole area in the store that was just nothing but import anime, or some stuff that was released here. But a lot of the reasons why we rented things were because it was cheaper to rent something than it was to go out and buy VHS.
Yes.
VHS was super expensive.
Oh yeah.
Super expensive.
God forbid you have damage one, you have to replace it for the company.
And yeah, it's just like, I know a lot of people talk about the rental fees. So there was an incident we had something like that too, but those, being able to get something like, because we would always go to the theater, we'd just record it off a TV, so we'd have it on VHS to watch it later on. But for things that we wanted to watch, that we wanted to see right away, that may not be on HBO or Showtime and all those movie channels, if we're lucky, we had to go rent it. And that was the best way to get stuff. And then of course, when video games come around, as far as NES, with the you could rent games for that. That was a big way I played a lot of my games.
Mm-hmm.
So what was some of your favorite movies to rent?
I mean, there was
Whatever
never
was
really,
out.
I don't really remember renting anything consistently, right? Like I said, it was all about finding
Well,
something
genre.
new,
Think
finding
about
something.
genre. So what genre did you prefer to watch, or was it just like you'd watch anything that was available? Because, like you said, the one thing that's great about the rental stores was the fact that it was a moment of discovery. There wasn't this whole thing of it's a cult classic, or there's people online that are raving about this movie, so I need to go check it out.
Well, and then what added to it, right, was you would have cases where someone would have picked up something from like one area, right, one genre, would have wandered down the way and then put it somewhere else because they saw something else and they were just too lazy to walk it back to where they got it from. So yeah, you might have been like walking through, the action adventure section, and then all of a sudden seen this weird box cover, and you pick up and look at it, and it's like this weird horror movie. And so it wasn't just, oh yeah, you're just walking through this. Like nowadays, right now, you get on Netflix, you get on Hulu, you get on any of these services, and you're like, all right, I want to go find this specific genre, and that's all you'll see, right, as you scroll through it. So there was this almost randomizer sometimes that got thrown in there, depending on how lazy people were in the store on any given day, that you might stumble on something that you weren't even expecting to catch, right? But I mean, growing up, a lot of it was all, kids movies. As I got older, it was a lot of kind of catching up on stuff that I hadn't seen, that most everybody talked about. So there was a lot of like the sci-fi adventure type of stuff that I eventually got into. That was actually, I think that's how I found Godzilla versus Biollante, was at the video store, because it was on that box for it, right? Because it actually saw a statewide release for it. It was like stumbling across that was really cool. Yeah, I mean, there was never a specific area that I remember running immediately to. It was always just, you know what, I'm just going to walk up and down this store and see what catches my eye, and if something looks good enough, I'll grab it, we'll take it home, and we'll take a, we'll give it a go and see how it plays, right?
Yeah, exactly. Colin,
Uh,
just about anything, right? You said.
well, yeah. I mean, it came down to a combination. Like I said, most of my memories of video stores came down to having the boys.
Mhm.
I mean, the stuff that I rented early on was just kind of sporadic and everything. My first marriage and stuff like that. We would rent random things, but the important stuff that I remember is when I had the boys. I would try and divide it up between things that they wanted to watch, whatever was current or something they felt, and stuff that I remembered that I wanted them to see, so that I could expand their, I guess, horizons or ideas or whatever. Like Mel Brooks movies and old action movies and stuff like that. And basically I tried to pass on the knowledge, the stuff that I experienced, so that they could say, okay, yeah, I know what that is, and have the references and everything like that. I don't know. It just,
Yeah, I mean,
being able to share experiences with my kids, and the video store allowed me to do that.
mhm.
Well, it allowed me to have those memories, but at the same time go, oh yeah, I can watch this with my kids because they have it right there. Grab the tape, boom. And when they brought DVDs in, boom. And they want to do these things. They want to build their own memories and their own experiences. You could mesh those two ideas together. And that was always one of the greatest experiences for me.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, because for us, it was Dad would always go, and there would always be some kind of horror movie, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Some kind of science fiction movie. And then he would let me and Ember pick out whatever we wanted. And when I was younger, it was usually like G.I. Joe and Transformer episodes that we didn't record. And anime whenever we could get it. It wasn't until, I mean, because I watched whatever my dad got. So everything my dad got usually was always something good. You know, there was on rare occasions that he'd rent something that wasn't appropriate for us, even though, you know, Jason stabbing, a camper was not appropriate for us at all. But there was a lot of times that I remember going into like Hollywood Video and the different, like the evolution of it. It was like when I'd go, it was looking at the cartoons, stuff I hadn't seen since I was a kid, what new science fiction movies I saw, then horror movies.
Right.
My sister wanted to go play with the Lego blocks or the other kids inside, because you used to have those playrooms at some of the locations. While dad was looking at movies. Then we got more invested in what was going on. Then it was the video game age, so we were kind of like had everything that we could be able to want to get. And that was great because you didn't ever have to pay for all this stuff. You didn't have to have a massive gaming collection or a massive movie collection. You just go rent it, pay $3, $2, whatever. You have a movie for the weekend and for a couple of days, go take it back and get another one. It was better than watching stuff on TV. I mean, our family was always watching movies more than, sitcoms or television.
Right.
Unless it was cartoons. But it was always fun. I miss it. I miss being able to, I'd love to be able to take over to go do something like that nowadays. But then,
Right.
Okay, so there was, and I got to bring this up anyway, because we were talking about it earlier before we started recording, but of course, as some of y'all may know, if you're old enough, that there was certain video stores that had the sections that were not for kids. Why this was a thing, I have no clue. But I don't know how many times my dad was trying to get me and my sister out. What's over here? Oh.
I was there for very little of that, but I remember the first couple of times we did that. You guys would just kind of wander over toward those bead curtains, and we're like, no. That's not for you.
What's funny is that, so
Oh,
yeah,
man.
like what we were talking about, I guess I was too old by the time I started recognizing that kind of stuff, because I don't remember the beaded curtain rooms or anything that was kind of a back room that you had to have access to. But it's funny you talking about the anime side of it, because funny enough, the most adult type things that I saw on anything was actually in the anime section.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
I very,
Yeah.
very vividly remember walking through the anime section and looking back on it, it was probably Ninja Scroll, but I'm not sure, because I remember picking up the box and flipping it over, and on the back was a completely naked lady with a like snake tattoo going up her side. And I was like, what is this? And it's like, where's my parents? I need to put this back before something bad happens.
Can I read this? Can I
we
read
never-
this, Dad?
we can never come back. Yeah, it was like that, right? That's so yeah, I didn't remember a section, but a hidden walled off section, but it was like, yeah, if you found the right box covers and you found the right, movies, and you just flipped it over, you're like, oh, well, there's some side boobage going on here.
There's something there, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Jeez, and it is like some of the horror movies, man. You could stumble across that stuff easily, or sci-fi.
Oh.
That's true too. Man,
I mean, all you really need to do is find if it had Corman's name anywhere on it. It's like, yeah, it's gonna have something in it
Mhm.
somewhere. Might even be on the box for all you know.
The one thing that video stores helped me though with was like when I watched Big Trouble in Little China for the first time, or at least for the time I remembered, that actually really kind of defined it for me and captivated my love for John Carpenter, was that my dad only had so many movies that he had recorded from, on VHS from HBO or Showtime or wherever they were at. And So I was like, I wanted to find more. So we would go to Suncoast Video. Or well, Suncoast was our biggest thing because my dad would eventually buy certain movies depending on the importance of them, even
Yeah.
regardless of how the price was. Oh man, the prices were so bad for VHS back then. Everybody thinks
Suncoast
Blu-rays
was
and
fun though.
everybody thinks Blu-rays and DVDs are bad, but man, VHS back then,
Insane.
they were just as bad as like Neo Geo AES cards.
For those of you watching who don't know what we're talking about or can't get a grasp of reality on it, to replace a DVD that you damaged from a rental cost you like $100. It was $99 to replace it, roughly. And that was for your standard movie. That wasn't for a blockbuster.
Yeah. And that was because that wasn't even retail price. That's because back then video stores got a major discount from the studio.
Yeah.
They were able to get a cheaper rate, but it was expensive.
It was insane.
Yeah. But man. But that going back to what I was saying though, Hollywood Video, Blockbuster, where these are the places I would go to find these movies so I could at least watch them. Being able to watch The Thing, being able to watch They Live, and some other more obscure Carpenter movies. Finding other movies that are very similar to Star Wars, or oh man, there's just so many, like Terminator. And then that's another thing too, is you got to look at like the releases of movies that were on television versus what they were for the film theatrical cut. So you think about Terminator on TV, they of course cut out the conception of John Connor. It kind of leads to it, and it's like, oh, the Terminator's already showing up at the hotel.
Yeah.
But
and something else that nobody wants to think about, this was before widescreen.
Yeah.
Everything was pan and scan 4:3 letterbox format, or not letterbox, whatever. I mean, it was just all fit to your TV. And then everything was the old. I have a prime example of what those TVs were like that they were designed for right here in front of me. And it's just crazy. I mean, this was before they discovered, hey, we don't have to clip out this much crap anymore.
I remember people that would complain about the fact that the bars and that's how they would describe it. I don't want a widescreen. The stuff with the bars, it takes up part of the picture. I want the full screen.
Right.
Eye twitching over here because of the level of ignorance.
I mean, hey, look, man, for those of us that had to watch all that stuff on little bitty TVs, and you would get it on the wide screen and like it's scrunched this big, and you're watching on a screen that's already only like this big, and it's like, you know what? Let me go get. But it's funny because
if you get close enough, that stuff is high def back then, man.
Yeah. It was. So yeah, I remembered because whenever I finally got my own TV, it was a little bitty tiny POS, and so all the movies I'd buy were full screen, which now looking back on, I regret, because now I'm having to go back through and being like, oh yeah, I still own that movie in full screen format. I need to go find, you know what? This is a good time to upgrade to Blu-ray. I need to go find the Blu-ray for this. Like, what was one of the last couple ones I replaced? Like Kung Fu Hustle. Kung Fu Hustle I owned in full screen forever. And I only replaced it like a couple of years ago whenever I saw on Amazon. It was like, yeah, you can get the Blu-ray for like Kung Fu Hustle and like Shaolin Soccer for like $5. They're just like almost like little mini add-ons to whatever your purchase was. I was like, oh, hell yeah, I'm gonna add that. Get that in. Finally get some of that replaced and get some of the, because right now it's not bars here and here. Now it's bars here and here, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely changed. I mean, that was the biggest thing too, is like being able to renting games was a good one, man. It was great. Being able to sit there and like get a hold of something and be able to finish in a weekend or a couple days and then move on to the next. So you don't actually have to spend that money. Because back then, I don't know how many other people were like this, but like I only ever got stuff for my birthday or Christmas on rare occasions. So unless somebody, like if someone in my family bought me, I go, oh yeah, cool, I got like 5 games for my birthday. But that was because I had everybody just pull together money to so I could have certain games. Everything else I rented, for a long time. So I got my own job.
Yeah, I mean, there was, I think, one of the we rented a handful of games. The one I remember renting the most, weirdly enough, was oh crap, it was the little toy soldiers, right, where you would play the Green Army
Army
and then
Man.
the Army, and you'd run around as little army men, and you would have the big, wide open, huge like battle maps. And
Mhm.
me and my brother would just kill each other constantly in it. And then weekend would be over, we go drop it back off because yeah, I mean we our all of our game systems got thrown out because me and my brother fought all the time. And then we got an N64 with Majora's Mask, Pokemon Stadium, Super Smash Brothers, and that was it. We had 3 games that we just played constantly over and over. Like I've beaten Majora's Mask more times than I can count because that's what we had. And so yeah, we would go to the rental store, but we never really rented a lot of games. It was just like, all right, we're just gonna rent this thing and we're gonna kill each other as army men because Toy Story or whatever. And we had fun with it, but yeah. It was just had to do, right?
Right. I will say that after a certain point of going to the video stores, my wife and I decided, okay, we're going to take an X amount of dollars from the tax returns every year. And if there was a new system, we would get that in a couple of games. Otherwise, we would get new games that they could have no time limits on. Eventually, that's what that became.
Mhm.
And that was birthed from going to Blockbuster and having to rent games every weekend. And we kind of figured out, okay, is it worth this much versus this much? But that came all as a part of being able to go to Blockbuster. And another thing I always remember enjoying was the fact that you came in the store, games were to the right, movies were to the left, and they always had stuff going on in the screens. They had in the game section, they had games going on all the time,
Mhm.
even if it was just playback stuff. In the movie section, they always had movies going on, so you could actually see it in action and say, oh, okay, I like that. Let me grab that.
Mhm.
You didn't get duped by all the Asylum films, right? You walk over there and be like, oh, Transmorphers. This looks kind of then you turn up, you see it in the action, and you're like, that's hot garbage. Never mind. I'm putting this back. We're
But that
moving
was the
on.
fun, man. How many times have you watched movies that were like,
Oh,
you didn't know what they
man.
were? All you had was the box art for both games and movies. I was like, man, this is gonna be fantastic. And that's where I was gonna go. Is like, you think about how much time and effort was put into box art for stuff because
Right.
all you had is that one advertisement to catch people, especially in the rental place.
Right. Occasionally there were posters if it was big enough.
Mm-hmm. So, man,
Man.
how many times like I rent something and it was like, what the heck was this?
I mean, in fairness, right? That's still a thing now because now it's instead of you walking through aisles and stuff, it's like what I said. You go to a genre and you're scrolling through. And I don't know about you, but I don't even read titles. I'm just the first thing I do is I'm scrolling through. I'm like, which one looks cool? Oh, this one. And then you see the picture, you read the title, you're like, all right, cool. But now, you don't even have to click on it, right? With Netflix, you just hover on it long enough, and boom, here's the trailer. Oh, that looks like shit. On to the next thing. Scroll, 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 scroll. Oh, that cover looks pretty cool. That name sounds not awful. Let's watch the trailer for it for a second. You know what? That looks halfway decent. Let's roll
Give
it.
it a chance. Yeah. Yeah. It's sad though, because there was games that had awful covers. And I remember going through and looking for something to rent. It's like, okay, well, I can rent Final Fantasy 3, or before I owned it, I could rent Breath of Fire, I could rent Mega Man X, or I could go with this one game that has this old man with the banjo on it. No, I don't want to get the one with the old man on the banjo. This looks horrible. Or the one that I still regret was Earthbound. Seeing that big box did not look appealing to me. I'm like, and I'm a big RPG fan. I was like, what is this? I don't know anybody who owns this. It doesn't look good to me. And then years later, my buddy Jonathan going, hey, I got this kick butt game that I think you would enjoy. It's an RPG and takes place in modern times. I was like, okay, I'll check it out. And I'm like, yeah, this reminds me of that game that I remember seeing in the bargain bin at Toys R Us that I passed up a bunch of times for like $25 complete in box. I'm like, why don't want to pay? And I played it. Game was fantastic. Of course, at the time I had just finished Pokemon Yellow. So the
Okay.
art aesthetic was very similar as far as the buildings and how the characters look, and some of the gameplay was very similar as far as not catching Pokemon and how the battle system was very similar in a way. So I was like, man, this game is amazing. And I'm thinking to myself, all those times I passed by it at Toys R Us and I just let it go. Now it's a ridiculously priced game. Of course, I have it because I lucked out one day. So when EB Games decided to venture outside of the malls and actually start making stores, physical stores, I walked in one day and I was checking out their games, and the guy goes, "Yeah, I have these Super Nintendo games." I was looking through it. This is 2003 or so. Looking, oh hey, here's Earthbound. How much is this? $25. All right, cool, I'll get it. A couple other games I got too. Of course, I was working at Best Buy at the time, so I had disposable income.
Right.
But now it's like the cart only of Earthbound goes for like $400 or so. I don't even want to talk about how much the complete inbox version goes for. That I had for $25. At least I got the game for $25, not the
Right.
Yeah, but even if you had the complete box, would you actually sell it?
no.
See,
No,
there's
exactly. But it would be cool to have. I'd love to have the strategy guide, man. Not that I need it, but it would still be cool to have.
Right.
It's that
That
collector
is right.
addictiveness of being a collector.
It
Right.
is. It is a painful
Absolutely.
thing.
So do y'all have anything that y'all regretted that you didn't pick up to watch or play, that later on, after years later, that you decided to give it a shot and regretted not picking it up or watching it?
No. No, when we went, we went frequently. And basically got to the point where we were going so often it almost got burned out. But I don't regret that at all, because it gave them the option of options. And they don't regret it. Some of their best memories are going to the stores with us and doing that stuff. But like you said, eventually going to Suncoast and things like that, eventually that ended up being the way to go. And I remember Suncoast stores.
Mm-hmm.
Those were phenomenal.
Yep.
Up here, we had a thing called Media Play.
Yep. We had that too.
Okay.
Yeah. We had right over there up off of Mount Amita. There was a Media Play.
We had a huge one.
Mm-hmm.
You go in there, and that was the next logical step for us, because we got to a point where we actually were able to afford to take them there. And we would go and, okay, let's look for the movies that are like 2 for $5 or something like that. Used stuff. We didn't care as long as it worked. And took them in there, and that became the next logical step. Like I said, like, oh, okay, can we get this? Can we get this? Oh, look, this game is now here. We can get this, and it's basically the same price of what we were renting for.
Mm-hmm.
And and eventually there was like Media Play became a place of where you could do like meet and greets with certain things going on.
Yeah.
And we met Admiral Lagasse there. For some reason, he was in town. He was at Media Play. And Christopher was great. He was like, "Hey, Admiral, you're my biggest fan." Because he gave us some of what he called kicked up chocolate, which was one of those 10-pound Hershey bars. He was just breaking it off.
Yeah.
And we were the first in line for it. So he took a hammer, smashed it, and we ended up like with 1.5 pounds of chocolate from it. So Christopher goes, "Yeah, Admiral, you're my greatest fan," and walked away. So, it's things like that. It's going beyond just being able to shop and then having an additional experience to it.
Yeah, exactly. David, did you think of something? You were still pondering into your.
I mean, the only thing I can think of regretting, or I don't know how much of it's a regret. It's just more of I wonder how much more I would have discovered back then. Was more like the B movie side, right? Because whenever I was going through, I basically missed out on that entire concept of stumbling across great B movies in the video store. It was always, I guess, the focus was more on the more mainstream stuff that would come out and kind of be active. So it wasn't until years and years later when I would start watching people talking about B movies that I would go in and watch stuff like I would hear people talk about stuff like Night of the Creeps, right? And then I would go out and buy it and watch it and be like, man, this is a great movie. I would have loved to have known about the existence of this way back when. And it's like stuff like that I probably walked right past, right? The, what is it, House with the weird decaying hand pushing the
The movie House, both of them, House 1 and 2.
Yeah.
only-
so
The only
Like
two
stuff
good
like
movies
that,
out of that
right?
trilogy or the quadrilogy.
yeah, I mean, it's like stuff like that, right? You walk past it, you see it, you're like, that's kind of weird, and kept on walking, right? So it's like I'm certain that there is an entire plethora of great B movies out there that I just walked clean past, and I've been slowly going back thanks to all the people doing their reviews of stuff on the internet and talking about all the weirdness that existed in the old video stores that I've been able to go back and kind of just I guess not rediscover, because I never discovered it, but discover that whole genre of time, right, when it comes to those movies, and really plumb it up and get to see it with fresh eyes that aren't completely covered over with nostalgia from seeing it at whatever form of years it was. But yeah, I that's probably the closest I'd say to any regret that I had.
Okay, so going back to the whole thing about late fees, we had started renting at this one place called Video Hut right over there off of Spencer, and they had a really good rental selection of stuff, movies, games, and things. And I remember us renting Batman Returns, or not Batman Returns, but it was like Return of the Joker for the NES.
Okay.
And we played it, loved it, and then we were late. Something happened where we didn't get to take it back to the rental place right away. And so we went in to go return it, and they're like, okay, you got late fees. And the late fees were like the late
Depending on where you
were more than what the game was worth.
Oh geez.
So
it was
my dad's like, so if I pay my late fees, I can keep the game, right? No, you can't keep the game. I literally could go and buy the game at Toys R Us right now for the amount of late fees that you're going to charge me for this.
yeah. That was crazy stuff. The late fees.
The late fees
Oh,
are horrible.
man.
And we weren't even like that many days late. That was sad. So we definitely stopped going there after that.
Yeah.
But the other thing I was going to bring up was, speaking of media play, I remember us going there all the time because it opened up right over there by Alameda Mall, that strip center just past the mall. You know where
Okay.
that hobby shop used to be over there? The model shop.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
I think it was in the same parking lot as where the old theater used to be, where they used to do the Rocky Horror Picture Show live.
Okay. Yeah. Not too far from the mall. Yeah.
So we would go there and just man, it's like toys, comics, anime, movies, all this stuff. And I would always like beeline to the games, just sit there and look at stuff. But I remember my dad took me up there to go get a game. Because this was like right after Chrono Trigger came out and everything. And this is right when Secret of Mana came out. And on the Sega CD was Shining Force CD. Well, I went to go get Shining Force CD, but I heard that they were sold out, which I regret not being able to get that game because that game's expensive now. But I didn't want to get it because it was expensive. I wanted to get it because I wanted to play the thing.
Right.
And then I remember us getting Secret Evermore and be like, this game that we were like, Secret of Mana, maybe 3 players, and it's made by Square that they just did Chrono Trigger. This game's got to be awesome.
Right.
Starts off great. Keep in mind, I love this game now. I really do love this game. It's a really good game. But it was my expectations were this has got to be on the same level as Chrono Trigger. Of course, it was not on the same level as Chrono Trigger, and I was not ready to play that game. But later on, of course, giving it a shot, getting more into the game, I enjoyed the heck out of it. And it's just like sometimes you don't really appreciate something you're playing or watching until years later. You know, once you start getting a little bit wiser and understanding certain things, you know, story beats, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, I do have one very vivid memory of a rental place, and it did circle around games, right? It was the Hollywood Video across the street from South Houston, because at a certain point they devoted that whole section of it to the video games, right? Where there was like a whole separate door. It was like a whole separate store that you would walk into, right? And I had played Onimusha and Onimusha 2 with a buddy of mine, and we had and 3. And we'd stayed up like all night just doing everything in those games, blowing through all of it. And then we got, and which one was it? The one where he had the weird demon crown thing. What was it? The Dream something or other. It's like the 4th one, if I remember right. It's been a minute.
Of which one? What?
No, it wasn't. No, it was Onimusha 3, because that was the one with Jean Reno, right?
Yeah. Number 3 was with Jean Reno.
So I'm sorry.
Right.
I stayed up all night with a buddy of mine, and we played through Onimusha 1 and Onimusha 2, did everything in that game. Found out that Onimusha 3 came out. Well, I was not, I guess, old enough at the time, because I remember going in there, seeing it, grabbing it, going up to the counter and being like, I would like to purchase this game, please, sir. He's like, well, you need to show me ID. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you can't buy it. And I'm like, this is garbage. No, this is crap. I can drive, but I can't buy friggin' Onimusha 3 because it's got a mature rating or whatever the heck it was. Yeah, it was frustrating. And then I think I went and I got a hold of, I don't remember if it was Andrew or if I actually went and got my parents or somebody, but eventually I was able to go back there and get my hands on Onimusha 3 and then go through and beat that. But yeah, I remember that just being absolutely blocked by the cashier. No, sir, you cannot purchase this video game because you're not mature enough for third iteration of a game that you've just spent the last weekend or two playing through the first 2 because it's got blood or whatever.
It's got animated boobies.
So no,
It was
man,
That was always the excuse I heard was animated nudity. Make sure your kids don't play this because it's got animated nudity. Really, dude?
yeah, really, yeah, I know. Fictional polygon boobies. Yeah, there you go. Laura
Yeah.
Croft.
Yeah, they're gonna learn that boobs are square. That's awesome.
Poke your eye out.
That's right. Don't want to touch them edges.
my favorite one was always the Tenchu games, where it was like you could put in a code and make what's her name? I keep wanting to say Aisha, but I don't think that was I don't think that was the
her name. Andrew's like, he's only listening to that stuff. They're going, blah blah blah. It's this. It's this. all I can think of is Ricky Maru, who's the main character from Tenchu, the male.
Yeah, it was always like, oh, if you do this, this, and this, you can have her running around without her top on for the rest of the game. And it was like, you can? Going looking up on Game Facts, and I swear everybody was trolling us because it didn't matter what you did, it never did it. So
it's just as bad as the Laura Croft,
Yeah.
code where you got to jump off, you got to go to her, was in her mansion, jump off this pedestal into the water and whatever, and then when she comes out, she'd be naked. I'm like, what? Of course, yeah, I'm a teenage boy. I tried that stuff. Never happened.
of course, nowadays the equivalent of that is in all the Souls games of hidden wall here and treasure jump off cliff or stuff like that. It's the same concept. It's just Before
Oh,
you were gonna
you know-
you were gonna get pixelated boobs, and now you just die.
Well, now you don't even have to do that. You can just play Dead or Alive or some of these other fighting games or any other game that has fan service for.
We're talking about, man, no. If you're a man of culture, you need to go get Oni Chambra.
Man of culture.
Oh man, so Jesus.
Well done, David.
I remember going into a GameStop whenever, I don't remember which one it was, but the guys behind the counter were sitting there talking, and I was looking through the games, and they were being very judgmental of the fact about somebody had actually pre-ordered, I think, one of the Oni Chambra games. And I guess whenever you opened up the case, like where you were putting your finger to release the disc, and the disc art itself was about as suggestive as you'd think, right? So it, and so they were just sitting there and they were just talking crap about whoever this like neckbeard guy was gonna. I never saw who actually came in and got the game, but just listening to them talk about and describe it, I was like, I mean, the guy knows what he's getting. It's like the folks that go out and get the Senran Kagura games. It's like, you know what you're doing. There's no shame to it. I mean, there is shame to it, but you know,
No, there was no
got-
shame.
you just go do you. And if you're actually in it for the volleyball, man, more power to you. But I don't think it's all about the volleyball. Just like what was it, Rumble Roses? Rumble Roses, it wasn't all about the wrestling.
Jeez.
Well, I guess it was, but in a different sense. But yeah.
There's a subtitle, Vinny.
Yeah,
All about the
it
volleyball.
wasn't all about the wrestling or the volleyball. Jeez. Yeah. Oh man, I don't know how many
All about
times
the
we fell for,
volleyball.
I don't know how many times we fell for April Fool's jokes from EGM magazine.
Oh man, that's too much.
Jesus. Yeah, we derailed the episode so bad right now.
He is out.
Okay, so we're talking about Hollywood Video and them creating Game Crazy.
Okay.
So I do want to do a whole episode with the guys I used to, James, Stephanie, and I'd love to be able to get my old boss Chris on to talk about this, just the antics of things that we did at that job and the people that would come in and all the stories that happened. But I remember sitting in class and my buddy, I remember if it was Jaime or I think it was Jaime. If not, it was Juan. Can't remember his name. Oh man, I feel bad. But I had a buddy that I was in class with that goes, "Hey man, I know you play a lot of video games. Did you know that there's a place I work that opened up over right next to the Hollywood Video?" And I said, "No, I haven't been over there in a while." Because that was the thing. When for a period of time there, my dad just started buying movies. We'd go to Suncoast, and which goes back to the thing that Colin was talking about. We just started buying movies. But there was times that we would go and we would just go rent something sometimes because, you know, of course, you only have so much money to spend on movies, and there may not be that movie that you want at Suncoast. So you would go to Hollywood Video or Blockbuster to go rent stuff, because there was a period of time where like there was a bunch of good sci-fi movies and things that were coming out that were only being exclusively to Blockbuster, or there
Right.
was stuff that was exclusive to Hollywood Video. So we would frequent both. And but while Game Crazy was being built, we hadn't been to Hollywood Video in a while. We were just buying stuff. And it wasn't until like my buddy told me that they did that whole thing with Game Crazy because we hadn't been over there. I was like, okay, I'll go check it out. Of course, I went up there right after school, and I was like, wow, this place is pretty awesome. There's a game store like right by my house. And I remember every day after school, that was the hangout. Every day after school, we'd come up there. every day after school, I'd hound Chris, the boss up there, the manager up there. Hey, I want a job. Let me have a job up there. Let me put an application in to get a job up here. I'd hound him every day, every day, every day. Finally, he goes, all right. That's because my buddy left. He's like, I have a spot open. Put an application in. We'll have an interview and we'll hire you. Sure enough, I got hired. $5.50 an hour. But, you know, hey, I was working 20, almost 30 hours a week and going to high school. It's a fun job. I enjoyed it. But it's just funny because you're talking about the whole Onimusha and all that stuff. And I remember just all the different people that come in to buy stuff. And I was team Sony versus like my friends that were team either Nintendo or team Sega.
All right.
But that brought that whole thing because I was working there. So my dad started going to Hollywood Video again to rent movies because we would change places. Like we would go Hollywood for a period of time. And then we would go over to Blockbuster off of Spencer. And then we would go to another one of the Blockbusters and go there. We would go to the other Hollywood Video that was off of Center Street. So we would go to their different rotations. Or like if there was a movie out, one location didn't have it, my dad would have them check in the system so that we could go to that other location and be able to do it. You know, they'll be able to find it so we could rent it.
Yeah.
So
And at this point,
were in our lives.
Yeah. And at this point, we need to address the elephant in the room, GameStop.
Well, before it was GameStop, it was Funko Land.
Right?
Yeah.
Because eventually GameStop ran everybody else out of business.
Well,
I mean, yeah, you could rent some games and you could buy used games and stuff like that. But after a while, when they started getting desperate, they started trying to add more stuff to it, you know, the original NFT type thing, if you will.
well, and that's a whole topic right there too, with just like gaming stores. And I'd love to be able to cover that as well because you have, man, there's a lot.
Yeah.
EV Games, Babbage's,
I
GameStop,
remember
the Land, Software, etc.
Okay, yeah, I remember them.
Media Play,
Right.
where IKEA is now. There used to be a place that was just a big media outlet store. They had not just only did they have movies and games, they had like music. It was like
Yeah.
2 or
like a
3
Media
times
Play.
bigger than. Yeah, it was like Media Play, but it's something. I don't remember the company. They only lasted for a period of time because I guess they had so much stuff, and they just couldn't compete.
Right.
But then we had Fry's for a period of time, and Fry's just closed now closed during the start of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So-
Fry's made a good comeback. They had a good run. And then pandemic just kind of really, I mean, outside of like a couple of California locations and stuff that they really took a hit.
FYE.
Yes.
That's another
FYE
one.
was big.
I mean, and then you being able to go to Toys R Us, Best Buy, Circuit City to get stuff.
Yeah. Best Buy selection has been kind of hit or miss, but yeah, they were
Lately it
okay.
is, but back in the day it was pretty good. And then when I was working there, we really beefed up that gaming section and stuff. Started bringing in other product that you wouldn't be able to find
Yeah.
in a specialty gaming shop. Of course, this is all before like Game Over video games showed up. But there was a place that was inside the old Pasadena Town Square Mall that was right there at Spencer and Shaver. And there used to be a Ponchos in there. There was that video rental place that had, you could rent movies, you could buy stuff, and then you could rent import games. So that's how I played the Super Nintendo. But Super Famicom back then, Super Mario World for the first time. I think also that was how we played Super Mario 3 before it came out. I don't remember. It's one of the Mario games we played there that was before it hit the States. So it was really cool just being able to go into these places that were around town that you could just rent things or buy.
Yeah. And I always enjoyed the places that if they didn't have everything in the one-stop shop, like a Blockbuster, like you said, next to a Ponchos, you go and get some good food, you go and rent a couple of games or a couple of movies, boom, there was your weekend.
Mhm.
Always worth it. And
or we-
Ponchos.
yeah.
Oh, for those people who don't know what a Ponchos is, boy, have you missed out. I mean, it's been 30 years since I've stepped foot in one, and I still remember it.
Yeah, you don't ever forget the experience, and
No.
technically, you don't even forget the taste of
No.
what, like the enchiladas and the
Sopapillas.
sopapillas, the tamales, all that stuff,
All of it.
the tacos. It all had a certain flavor, and that was the place. It was like for us, it was Friday night. We all go meet at the Ponchos. Then we go head over to the Toys R Us right there on Alameda.
Yeah.
And then we may hit the mall or we'd go to a movie. Or it was we're gonna go to Tilt in the mall, or we go to Super Trek in the mall. It was Friday night was always busy for us. Always getting together, always hanging out.
But being able to have all that stuff so close together made it
It made a
experience.
big impact because you think about it then, like right now, things are so far away
Right.
unless you're lucky to happen to be living in an area where you're surrounded by all that stuff.
You know, a first market city, not, like Houston or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Up here in Syracuse, we're a second market. We miss out on so much stuff. So, I mean, if you have a first market city where you literally have all of the franchises that are known throughout the country fighting for space, you literally can go into a shopping mall and have a really good food place and have a good rental place. And then, oh, by the way, within a mile is Toys R Us, which was always a wonderful experience back in the day.
Yep. That
Because it would give you the first view of the games and stuff. They had some movies and everything, but for the gaming part of it, you would always be able to go down that whole row. Okay, this is the latest system. These are the latest games they have for it. Then you walk around the other side. Here's all the older stuff.
You'd have those
a couple more rows over, action figures.
You'd have that whole wall of these little flaps like this.
Yes.
And then they had like the box art and then the back of the box. And it was set up to where you'd see the front of the box, but when you flipped up the thing, it would have the back of the box level as like you're reading it that way. And then underneath that was the little pouch that you'd pull up the sleeve. You'd pay for it at the checkout and then go to the little bitty gaming area box that they had and get your game. And then you would leave.
Right.
You do so much like, I miss that Toys R Us over there. It's now a dollar grocery store or something like that, David.
Oh,
I think it was last time I've been over there.
Something like that, man. It's been a minute since I've
driven over to Alameda. It's been a while since too.
And that was the difference between that and say going to a Hollywood Video or a Blockbuster, where you would just have stacks of empty cases with the name on it. You would say, okay, here's the card for it. Here's the info for it. You want it, you have to go grab one of these empties.
Mm-hmm.
Toys R Us gave you, hey, here's your visual.
Yeah.
Here's your enticement.
Yeah,
here's what's going to sell it.
Right, because sometimes it was just the cover on the rental places. Some
right,
places didn't
or
even
a
use
brief
the
explanation on the back. Yeah.
And
if you were lucky, going back into a video store, if you were really lucky, the day you were going in there looking for a specific thing, it would be on one of those video screens. And then you would be able to sit there and go, yeah, I want that. Or no, I'll pass.
Or they would let you, I know Hollywood did for a period of time. They put a little movie on just to let you see it or whatever before. I know the one at least we were next to by South Houston. If you knew the guys that were working at the time, they're like, hey, can you put this on just real quick so I can see it? Because they usually had like TVs up and stuff.
And then they just would scroll through a couple of the chapters real quick, just give you a preview of it.
David?
I was gonna say it was either you had to know the people and hopefully they would do that for you, or you just had to hope to be lucky whenever you walked in the store that day and walk by and be like, oh, there's the sizzle reel for, whatever
What's going on? Yeah.
is
Right.
going on, and maybe it might be incorporated in it.
Which is another thing that is the difference between then and now. Back then, we had trailers. There weren't a lot of commercials for stuff like that. If you wanted to see something, it was either a trailer that occasionally was on TV, or you had to be in the theater, or had to be in this one specific place that had the design trailer for it to get your information on it. Otherwise, half the time it was a crapshoot.
Well, and
You
that
know,
was
not like, it's long before. I mean, for all those people who now can go to YouTube, okay, all you younger folks, listen up. Before you could go to YouTube, you actually had to have your butt in a specific place at a specific time, or you missed out.
the stuff. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
And
that's the-
you just
I mean, that's
literally
also
it was all on instinct or guess or screw it, let's go for it.
I mean, but that's also what home video changed, right? Because they
Right.
started adding movies onto the front of the VHSs. Like, I know that's how I came across a bunch of various movies before Netflix became a streaming service, right? And you would rent the discs through them.
Yes.
You get it, and man, there'd be some stuff that you get. You'd look through it, you're like, man, these trailers are pretty good. And you just start. I mean, you'd add it to a
Making
list.
notes.
And you're like, all right, I need to go add this to my queue or whatever, right? With Netflix, but the same, it applied to the video store before that. Go rent a video, watch it, go through there and be like, man, that was a pretty cool trailer. Make note of it. Go up to the store, right? Turn in that, and then you're like, all right, what was the name of that movie that I saw the trailer for on the video? Wander around. Oh, here it is, and you'd be able to walk up there, set it down, and maybe you luck out and get into a couple more trailer
Right.
experiences to
Well,
help you along.
That's another
That was-
thing too. About trailers. Trailers weren't when they were made, they were just enough to tease you. To
Right.
want you to watch it or check it out. Versus
Yeah.
like nowadays where movie trailers give a little too much.
Right.
And-
Exactly.
And I wonder if that's because back then you had with rental stores, you didn't have that other outlets to kind of push that information. You could here's the box.
Yeah, it wasn't instant,
So people would sit there and go, okay, I'm hyped about this. I'm hyped about this. And that's why, like when you used to get movies, you'd have VHS, you'd have trailers on them.
yeah, 2 or
for
3.
Right.
upcoming movies.
But because of the format, right? Those trailers had to be lean and mean, right? They had to
Yes.
give you, again, they had to be the sizzle reel. They had to give you just enough to whet that palate, right? To make you interested. And then boom, it was over. And you're like, well, wait, what's going on? What happened? Why did I see this, that, or the other? You were left with all these questions, and being
Right.
left with all those questions, that's why you're all right, I need to go and pick this up, right? And it was just because of the format, because they just needed to squeeze, that block of trailers there at the front of the VHS before you got into the actual movie, that they just had to pare it down. Now, like I said, with Netflix, man, you just sit on a movie long enough and it'll play you like a 3-minute long trailer. Or the worst right now, like by far the absolute worst, is Amazon. Because Amazon, it's like, oh, hey, do you want to watch a trailer? It's like, yeah, sure. And you play the trailer, and
Just
it
for
actually
15
turns
minutes.
out to be 5 minutes of some random moment in the movie that nothing's happening. It's like you go in, you're like, oh, let me watch this trailer for a minute. It's like it just drops you into the middle of a scene, somebody's talking, and all they're doing is a bunch of talking, and then it's over. And you're like, that told me nothing. I have no idea what's going on, who those people were, what they were talking about. It was boring as hell because nothing was happening. It was just them standing around staring at a bush talking about manila folders or whatever. And it's like, it's terrible. I don't know who at Amazon thinks that's a good way of going about it. If there's like an algorithm set up where it's just like, yeah, let's just take this section of the movie and just throw it out there for people to go take a look, and maybe
Yeah.
they'll draw me in. I don't know what is doing that, but yeah, there's definitely an art form that's been kind of lost over the years when it comes to cutting trailers, where it's like,
Right.
yeah, let's just throw the entire kitchen sink at them all at one point. We're going to show you everything that happens in it, all the major plot points. We're going to spoil the whole thing for you right out the gate, but
Right. It's
That's fine.
baloney on the wall.
So
right.
let me
was-
say this.
Okay.
The one thing that I always enjoyed about VHS tapes, and I still have quite a few, is the fact that you could kind of recreate that movie experience. Because in order to watch a movie in the theaters, they always had 2 or 3 trailers. And if they were well enough made, you got just as excited for the trailers as you did the main feature. You know, some companies got that right with the videotapes, some of them didn't. You know, it was give you a couple minutes to sit down and prep for it and stuff like that. Now we have an instant gratification society.
Yeah, just turn it on. Let's go. That's a movie.
You know, you literally can mouse over this on this platform and it'll start playing. And then, like David said, sometimes it'll be relevant, sometimes it'll be garbage. You know, and it's just too much. And spoilers. In a society where people complain about spoiler alerts, there's so much spoilery. It's ridiculous.
Well, we sit here and we used to be conditioned to be okay with some level of advertisement.
Right.
And sometimes it was things that we didn't want to see. Sometimes the things it just depended on luckily some of that stuff was tailored to the experience. And you think about, like, if you remember the old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie on VHS, there was the one trailer about the girl that was like the outsider in her family. And she's sitting there talking about describing her family. And it's like, why do I want to watch this? Why can't I fast forward this? Oh, I can.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the movie was. I mean, that she was advertised, but I just remember her having like a Ferris Bueller's Day Off moment.
Probably a Lily Sobieski movie or something.
But it's changed. I mean, nowadays, you know, we can barely sit through advertisements when we're watching something on YouTube or television. You know, most of the time now it's like I'm gonna sit here and DVR it.
Yeah.
And you come back and then you just watch it, but you skip all the commercials.
Yeah, you
I
take
mean,
away
hey,
all
I
the.
don't want to watch the commercials either, but it's just a different time.
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, and I think that goes back to the nostalgia of it. Sometimes, if I'm not in a hurry to watch something, if I don't have to be at work in an hour, you know, and I've got 44 minutes to do something, okay, get right to the meat and potatoes of it. If I've got extra time, if I'm just sitting here in the studio and got nothing going on, boom, just let it play. You know, get all the entertainment, all the trailers, all the crap with it. Just let it run.
Well, we don't. Go ahead.
That's where Demolition Man was so ahead of its time, of just bombarding you with commercials basically the entire movie of, hey, there's like another Coke machine. What was it? Coke, or was it Dr. Pepper? Where it was just constant.
Was it
in the-
Pepsi? You sure it was
every
Dr. Pepper?
shot.
Because
All I remember is Taco Bell and Demolition
Taco
Man.
Bell.
Taco
But it was,
Bell.
I thought it was Coke or something like that as well. But yeah, it was just constantly in the background of every shot was just, here's product placement. There's product placement. There's product. It's just, all they needed was, before Wesley Snipes and Sylvester Stallone went down for the big final battle, they just both needed to stop, and one needed to pull out a Coke, the other one needed to pull out a Pepsi. They both crack them, take a sip, be like, now that's refreshing, and then they go out and get into the battle. That's how you do commercials. Draw everybody.
And it's funny though, because like as a viewer now, you can go back and watch those movies and see where the product placement is, and see
Right.
how oh well, Coke must have paid them for this, or it's a Pizza Hut commercial here. I mean, come on, look at Back to the Future 2 when they're all like fully advertising the rehydrated pizzas. But we still love those movies, but it's like, it's so bad. And it's like, but as a kid, it's like, man, Dad, I want Pizza Hut. I want those cool sunshades from 2015. Come on, I need those.
Right.
Those,
And speaking of sunshades, Ray-Bans first made their first thing in what, Vinny? If I remember right. Terminator.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so.
It was the original Ray-Ban long wraparounds, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted those sunglasses. And I thought
Yeah, Terminator 1, man. That movie defined, and we've touched on this a little bit. Actually, I think we've touched on a lot, but it really needs to be restated. Terminator defined sci-fi for telling a story like it did.
Yeah.
And especially for like Cameron having that ground roots. I mean, that was his movie. That was the first movie that broke him out as far as being a director. You know, really like moved him from a B director to someone that people wanted to bring on. But the funny thing is, he did that movie and Aliens almost back to back,
Right.
and it was like because of how successful Terminator was, Aliens was just went over the top. And everybody was expecting what his next movie was.
Yeah.
I know we
neither
joked
of
about
those
the-
were low.
I know we joked about like some of his movies, like his decisions with Titanic and some other things, but you know, for a director that really went above and beyond to find new technology for storytelling, and I guess that's because of being a artist himself, a visual artist.
I was about to say, like, you know, for all the crap you want to give him, whenever he decides to commit to a vision for something, right? Like he commits to the vision
Oh
for it.
yeah,
Yeah. For
It's-
ill or for
it's-
will.
and it's sad because I enjoyed. There's so many reasons why I enjoyed Avatar, even though I know to me it's a Fern Gully ripoff. But I mean, like the mech design, like the visuals of that movie. That I mean, he really kind of like broke around with the 3D technology. I mean, like it really took everything. It's like we had these movies that were kind of like okay, but that movie kind of took it to another level. And
He convinced a lot of people to buy 3D TVs. That
3D TVs, yeah. The period
I
of time.
don't. Does anyone even give a crap about those anymore? I don't think that's
It's
a
just
thing.
a gimmick. I mean, it's like to me, it's like virtual reality. I have an Oculus. I need to finish freaking Half-Life Alex because I love Half-Life series, the Half-Life series, and I haven't had time to set it up because I just don't have the space to be in here. I'm gonna hit my
Yeah.
glass case over here, but to me, it's just gonna be a fad. The technology is not there.
Yeah.
I can see more augmented reality with glasses than I can see virtual reality.
That's fair.
Um,
I'd like to say that I've never seen Avatar.
yeah, I know. I remember you didn't say anything. I remember you told us that you didn't see it.
It's your Uncle Tony's one of his favorite movies of all time. I can't bring myself to watch it. I don't know why. I just can't. I don't know why. I've had plenty of opportunities. I've been, people wanting to loan it to me. It's been on various stuff that I have subscriptions for. Just can't bring myself to watch it. I don't know why.
It is a perfectly fine middling sci-fi movie that has very pretty visuals.
Has a very beautiful visuals in that movie, but I mean, I like some of the characters, but it is so on the nose, man. I mean, even down to the whole thing of the reason why they're on the planet is for this material called unobtainium. That says enough right there.
Yeah,
That says enough.
yeah.
But it's a good, enjoyable movie. I've seen a hell of a lot worse, and
That's fair.
It's one of those ones that's worth a watch. Now, if you're going to talk about a movie that I refuse to watch and I will never watch, and it's Michael Bay's TMNT movies.
I saw the first one. I will not watch the second one.
He can kiss my ass because the fact that he should have never touched Transformers for one, and touching the turtles and making them roided out Gears of War rejects. As much as I love Gears of War, they're supposed to be Ninja Turtles. Technically, they're also supposed to be only like 4 feet tall. So
They were what, almost 6 foot in that movie?
almost 6 foot. Yeah, almost 6 foot in the movie. No, No, get that shit out of here. I'm sorry. This is the first cussing I'm doing in the movie. We're talking about Michael Bay ruining Transformers. Go back to making sci-fi movies. You know, The Island was really good. I don't know if it's just because Scarlett Johansson was in the movie and Ian McGregor, but you know,
It was overall it was worth the watch.
Yeah.
No, it
Turtles.
just,
No, I'm not going to watch that garbage. I refuse.
I refuse.
And if I want to watch something bad. I'll watch. No, I won't even do that. I won't even watch the Nickelodeon, the new series that they did just recently.
Yeah.
No, I don't need to have Raphael be this bigger turtle and he's the leader because he's the oldest. Why do you have to play with the formula? It works. Just continue doing what you're doing. You know, what you were doing. You could have just continued the Nickelodeon series that you did before it.
Oh man, definitely. No, they did that series. I love that series, man. They did everything in that series.
No, what
They
they
went-
didn't do was do the Last Ronin story with those turtles.
That's because the last Ronin didn't exist yet.
I know it didn't, but still, that art
And
style
he-
would be
He
fantastic.
could have gone back and made a movie of it.
Yeah.
But even then, they kind of did with the dystopian one where you had
Yeah.
What was it? Was it Mikey that it was following? Because they did do a end of
They
the
did, yeah.
world,
Yeah,
right? Apocalyptic. Like Leo was the weird giant mech thing that they ended up having to fight, and he was all like crazy and extra mutated and had gone completely insane. So technically they almost did. I mean, they went from the very beginning all the way through the Triceratons to Super Shredder to they blew up the Earth and then they brought it back. They did Usagi Yojimbo. They did everything in that show. It was nuts. I mean, it'd be cool for them to go back and do Last Ronin.
yeah. I
But-
mean, they could. There's so much. There's so much they could do. So much. You just gotta look at like some of the the comic stuff that they've done. Image has done for a period of time, and I think Devil do. I don't even know who has the comic right now, but Image was doing. I think the Image still has the comic run right now, and that story is great, man. I think I'm behind on it, but I mean, they could literally continue that story.
It's IDW.
IDW. Okay. Well, the Image one was really good too, but yeah, IDW. Okay. I couldn't remember who's doing the Turtles right now.
Board game that's based on the current run of the comics. So
That stuff is really good, but no, we can't have. That's the problem. Now we're going back into movies, and this is because okay, guys.
Well,
I
I
love
mean,
retro gaming, but movies are my biggest thing. They've always been my love for in the world, and I can't stand bad movies. Now I like bad movies, but I can't stand taking properties that deserve a good treatment that are string hunt or whatever. What is it? It's the trip before they could actually make it. You know, they're altered to fit a certain audience. When the Turtles originally didn't even fit kids, it wasn't a kid comic.
Shredder dies in literally the
First
first
issue, yeah, first issue. Shredder dies, and then
And he comes back as like a mass of worms or some crazy nonsense like that.
the
later on.
Triceratons or somebody, I can't remember, it was whatever, some alien race or somebody, or no, I think it's just a foot starts like genetically cloning him to make him come back, and he has like all these different mutations before they actually get him to come back or something like that.
Yeah, it was batshit crazy. It was good.
But you know, that's what I'd like to see, or I want to see a return to form to the original '90s movie, at least the first two. I enjoyed 3 for what it was back in the day. It was more Turtles to me. It was a shitty story, but hey, man, I got to see Mikey and the rest of the guys. But it was a horrible time for Casey Jones and Casey Jones fans because he got left on the sidelines for the alter ego of his past, who's a coward.
It's about right.
Just because we can't have the Turtles use their weapons against real people, so we're gonna have them do whatever. Half the movie is freaking dialogue. They don't even really fight in that movie. Gosh, it was awful.
But see, that's where again, going back to the video store, you could have someone put that on for just a second, and you'd be like, and you know what? Maybe
Hey,
that's
I
what
saw it
Amazon,
in theaters, man. I can't help that.
maybe that's what Amazon's doing. They're like, hey, does this dialogue and this random 5-minute scene interest you at all? No, then this movie probably isn't for you, right? Just got to give you those little samples and tastes to let you know. Do I really want to watch a giant, like 8 foot tall looking Mikey make a bunch of weird jokes and nonsense? No, I think I'm good.
No,
I'm-
I think I'm good, man. And it's like, I remember Dad was telling me, yeah, they put all this stuff from the cartoon, you know, the Bebop and Rocksteady and Krang's
Oh,
in it.
that's the second one.
That's the second one. I know. And I'm like, Dad, I have no interest in watching this movie. I don't. I just don't. I'm sorry. I speak with my wallet. If I don't like something, I'm just going to avoid it. What am I missing? A bad time, a headache? I mean, I wish I could have took my money back, like my dad said, from watching The Mist. That movie was horrible too. It was great up until a point, and it was downhill after that. Shit, what? That should be an episode. Top 5 movies that pissed you off. Sadly, 3 of those would be taken up from a sequel trilogy of Star Wars.
Jeez.
Damn you, Disney! Damn you! Hold on.
Lots of fish shaking there.
There's the thumbnail. Man, just
All right, David, your turn. Thumbnail.
Thumbnail. Why do it? I think Vince's thumbnail is perfectly fine, unless we're all just gonna be like,
here we go.
Here's mine.
Here we act like an old man.
Get out of my lawn! Stop taking my movie ideas!
there you
I'm trying to think of movies that like piss me off, dude. I'm gonna have to sit down and write.
We've already
stuff.
covered quite a few of those.
I know. I wanted. We should do a top 5 episode.
Yes.
Top 5 movies that piss us off, and top 5 movies that piss other people off, but we enjoy.
Let's see here. I mean, we so far for you, we already know it's hashtag not my Transformers, hashtag not my Turtles, and hashtag not my Star Wars. Is at least 3 of yours.
And hashtag not my Snake Eyes. So
There you go.
It's mine is all stuff that I grew up with as a kid, because
Hashtag not my G.I. Joe.
people that don't freaking know how to write stories well.
All my bunch of stuff that I found I didn't watch until years and years later, and I find at this point in my life to be insanely overrated. But that's just me.
Oh, the Titanic.
Hey,
Titanic. I was not very impressed the first time I watched Nightmare Before Christmas.
that's fair.
Which I understand is like blasphemy to tons of people. Nightmare Before Christmas is fantastic. It's like, it was fine. Like, music was fine. Design was pretty cool. Boogie serves absolutely no purpose in that movie whatsoever. And no one will ever be able to convince me otherwise. Because it's like, yeah, he's there kind of in the middle. And then he just randomly shows up at the end to capture Santa because we needed a third act, I guess. But
We need an actual villain, so we don't make Jack the villain. We need something to redeem him for this act of sending millions of kids scary monsters, decapitated heads, and other spooky Halloween items
Yeah.
the
that
problem
probably
was,
gave their parents heart attacks. It's like Jack
The problem-
was able to succeed what the villain in Halloween 3 was not able to do, or maybe he was, depending on what ending you want to take.
Oh no, that's a hashtag for me. Not my
Hashtag
Michael
not-
Myers. Ugh,
Well,
no.
we, it's funny because I was listening to one of my buddies talking about they were on a podcast and stuff, and they were talking about stuff, and I just mentioned the fact that like Halloween. I mean, originally the first movie was supposed to be it, and then he wanted to do other Halloween stories, and it was a studio that made him decide to go and make the second movie. and then he finally got to work on the third movie, and he only has like some credits. He didn't actually direct the film, and then it was back to Michael Myers after that. So what, David?
Yeah.
And ever since,
And ever since,
three Halloweens later, because we've had 3 Halloweens at this point.
Yeah.
Just Halloween.
Halloween,
guys.
Halloween, yeah. It's like Beetlejuice. You say it again, Michael Myers is gonna be knocking at your door.
I remember back when Halloween H2O came out. This was back before the internet had its fun. I was creating memes like Halloween H2 Don Ho, and I would have Don Ho's face on Michael's mask with his eyes blackened out. I would fax that to people randomly. I was such a rotten child. But that's a whole different topic. I mean, those are the type of things that you would want to see in a video store. I'm kind of grateful that the video stores went away when they did, because of some of the crap that's been out there now. You would, like, if you saw the new Turtles movies in a video store, would you want to rent it? If you saw it on a screen, would you want to rent it? No, you'd be like, the fuck is that?
Well, you think about like movies that we did want to watch that we got were the Sharknado movies, and everybody loves that on Sci-Fi. I'm like, no, I don't need to watch a tornado that picks up a bunch of sharks. No. It's like Land Shark 2 with tornadoes.
But I mean, but you would at the same time, right? With all that terrible stuff, you would get more play on a lot of the indie stuff, right? You would get more exposure to all those types of movies, right? I mean, now they still do get decent exposure, but it usually takes a much heavier word of mouth campaign to really get them out there and known, right? But I mean, it's just you got to grow with the format, right? You got to grow with the formats, otherwise you just waste away. So they're still getting their messages out there. They're still getting their recognition. It's just slightly different avenues to get it. But it was just once upon a time. That's why we have cult classics, right? Because for whatever reason, everybody had that same moment. Whenever they would go into a video store and they just walked in, and it just seemed like everybody was drawn to similar art. Everybody watched this one movie, and then they started going around telling everybody, "Hey, have you seen this video with the weird cover art with the this, and this, and how batshit crazy it looked? Well, you need to watch it because it's pretty damn good."
Crazy, yeah.
Well,
exactly.
That's one of those things too. Is that one of the missed opportunities nowadays is that you don't get to have that discovery or that word of mouth anymore. Everybody else it's just in your face constantly.
Everybody gets to see the same stuff at the same time.
Yeah. So. And I miss being able to, like Colin said, and Dave, both of you guys said, being able to go to a video rental place and finding that one rare, obscure movie that just resonates with you. And then you're the person that goes and spreads that love for everyone else. Check this out. This is really good.
Yeah.
We don't have that anymore. I mean, we do, but it's not on the same level of like we're all discovering it. Everybody, it's like it's all in our face, so we already attached to it right away, unless you're just completely not paying attention. I mean, that's me right now. I used to be all up on game news and stuff. I still do it some occasionally and stuff like that, just to be. But a lot of it, I like now to leave to just experiencing those things when they come out, because a lot of times we can literally put ourselves in a situation where we've technically already experienced everything that you're going to experience in the game, but you just need to play it. Putting all the pieces together.
Right.
I mean,
So-
I think the one thing that I miss the most, honestly, is being able to sit down and have that cluster of trailers at the beginning of a movie or something, right? Like some of my favorite movies I stumbled across because of that. Like I love the movie Brick, and I came across that because I rented a movie one day, and out of nowhere, the very beginning, started off with a little bit of smoke, kind of weird sounding music. Watched the trailer, I was like, that sounds kind of interesting. Never came out to theaters, found it at a video store, sat down and watched it. I was like, that was a really good movie. I really enjoyed that and went through it, right? You don't that's where I feel like I used to know about more of the movies that were coming up, right? At least it wasn't always just, oh yeah, here's the new slate of superhero movies from now for the next decade that are coming out. It was the weird, it was the obscure stuff. And you still get that every now and then, right? They pay for new types of advertisements. They'll plaster banners on top of, YouTube and all that. YouTube will randomly throw a little trailer at you every now and then for it, right? Like what is it? Is it Ethan Hawke? No. The Phone. It's based on the Joe Hill story. The black phone, something like that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's
Kids
the one I was.
I know that it exists. I know it's supposedly coming up soon. I have no idea when. I have to go
Yeah.
look it up.
We were
But
looking
it's
at
like,
the thing.
once upon a time, way back when, I haven't seen anything for it ever since. It popped up once, just enough to kind of stick it a little bit in the back of my mind, and then it disappeared off into ether, and we're off onto something new, and it's not even out yet, or maybe it is. I have no idea.
So it's sad too, because do you miss the days when like you used to be in the know about stuff? Like there was things that like it was kind of cool being the only one and your friends knowing about something like a movie or a game, just like not trying to be like a hipster. I'm just saying it was like, there was things that was like you felt like you were kind of a part of an elite club just
Yeah.
because you knew about these things. But you wanted to bring more people into it.
Yeah.
It's like
yeah.
today's
The original influencers.
Yeah.
See, I was never that, right? I was always the guy who's coming to things secondhand about stuff, but it again, it was that exploration, that finding something, even if it was something that somebody else told me about, right? Or if it was noticing something different from other people, of something that they'd watched 50 million times, and then you sit down and watch it and you're like, hey, have you seen, again, maybe there was a trailer at the beginning of a movie and you're like, hey, did you see the trailer that came on before that movie you told me about? That one looked pretty cool too. Have you ever seen that? Like, no, which one was that? You go back and show it to them, and then you could go out and find it, and hey, this is kind of an interesting movie. Or just coming to something with a fresh set of eyes, right? And stumbling on it. That's always been more of my experience when it comes to movies, because yeah, most everybody usually knows what I'm aware of by the time I get to it. There's every once in a while I'll stumble on something that is just kind of odd and out there, like a samurai remake of Unforgiven starring Ken Watanabe. I didn't ever hear anybody talk about it or know anything about it, and I just stumbled on it one day. It was like, oh hey, apparently this exists.
Mhm.
Right.
I'll buy it. Why not?
Well, and that's the thing too, is that for when I'm going back to where I was talking about it, that being that whole influencer, but it wasn't like for you, David. It was you think about the perspective of you growing up. You had a different upbringing, so your access to things was different than like me or Colin.
Right.
And that's the thing too, is like a lot of people. I remember in high school, like people ask me, why do you like Star Wars so much? And of course, think about it. Star Wars came out in 77, and then 83 was the last one. So I was almost two when it came out, but because of my dad, I loved the movie. I was immersed in like literally like immersed into it. And versus like other people, it's like, oh, well, I remember watching this when it wasn't that big of a movie. It was for the people at the time, but you think about like my generation and your generation, it wasn't one of those things that was a staple. It wasn't until like Lucas started going, I'm going to do the remasters and I'm going to do the prequel trilogy, that it really kind of really boomed for that generation. Because I remember like kids in school, like I remember that old movie. Why do you like that? Because it's awesome. I don't know. I grew up watching it. Versus like,
Right.
you know, but nowadays it's like everybody's so immersed in all of it too. It's like you're losing that discovery period. You're losing that, I don't know,
because because of the fact that you have access to everything, right? So you have
yeah,
access
everything's
to everyone. You have all the access to like daily updates about how movies are progressing. You're getting behind the scenes photo sets like posted by different actors and the director and producers on Twitter. You're not having to wait for the new Wizard magazine to see the behind the scenes stuff on X-Men. It's every single day. Hey, here's what Wolverine looks like. Here's what we think might be this person, and right, it's that kind of stuff. It's definitely different, right? It's different overall how the information comes to us for sure. So does it strip some of the mystery away from it? Yeah,
Maybe.
absolutely. That's just kind of the nature of it, unfortunately. But I mean, the only way that you stop it is by like what a lot of people try and do, which is, okay, I'm putting my blinders on, and y'all please don't talk about anything or tell me anything about it till I can
yeah.
get to the finish line and see the movie. Right.
We're all
So-
adults, so we have to learn to do that ourselves anyway. People are like,
Yeah.
they spoiled it online. Well, why are you online? Why are you looking around? It's your fault.
Yeah.
But I mean, but to that whole thing about I guess everyone kind of drawing from a similar pool of information. I remember reading it was an essay basically on somebody's blog where they were talking about how like sci-fi canon doesn't exist for a lot of people. Like, once upon a time, everybody knew who Frank Herbert was in Dune, and everybody knew the backstory of like Tolkien, and everyone knew Heinlein, and everyone knew Asimov, and everyone had read Foundation, and you had this common pool of knowledge that everyone kind of had, that everyone sort of drew off of, and you saw the inspirations and all that coming from all led back to a single like points of canon that everyone sort of knew. And you don't have that anymore, right? You have this incredibly diverse, just sprawling landscape of information, and sometimes you get into it and you're like, oh yeah, that's referencing this, and they look at you like you're crazy, and they say, no, that was referencing this other completely different thing, right? And it's
Because
just
everything is referencing everything now. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's weird for me because the perspective of growing up being a nerd, or someone that liked that stuff, and then you introduce people to it and stuff, and help them see the light, in a better word.
yeah, but now you've succeeded. Everybody knows about it. Everybody knows about Dragon Ball now.
Yeah,
right?
everybody knows about Dragon Ball. Everybody knows our Lord and Savior Goku.
We've reached utopia, right? We've reached utopia. Everyone is technically a nerd at this point about something, right? It's now everybody knows about Star Wars. Now everybody knows about anime. Now everybody knows about these things. Do they all like it? No, but everybody knows about it. And
I don't know. I think a lot of people like everything, and they just go, I don't like this, because they want to be whatever.
Edgy.
Yeah, they wanna be like-
contrary.
yeah.
I mean, that's part of it, right? It's because there's that need to differentiate your voice from the mass. So when everyone else is running along saying, oh man, this is great, the only way that you can be different is by saying, no, that's garbage, because reasons, right?
Yeah, for reasons. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, but not everybody's going to like everything, right? I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. It's the nature of entertainment. Whether or not you agree with someone's reasons for liking or not liking something is a completely different set of circumstances. But I mean, I would have hoped, and I still have a hope that, you know, it will eventually lead to a greater diversity in storytelling, right? So that we don't see just a rehashing of the same movies over and over again, because that was what was so cool about the video store, like what we talked about, that adventure of finding something new and different, a new voice, a new story, a new thing that you hadn't really seen anything like it before, right? And there's still the ability to tell those stories. They might not be the blockbusters, but the blockbusters weren't really the things that you remembered really well from, you know, the blockbusters aren't the thing that you remember discovering. It's that little film, right? It's that thing that, like what you said, is kind of the thing that you introduce everyone else to, because you found it, and hey, it's this cool little pearl that you came across in the middle of nowhere, and now you get to go around and share it. It's like I feel like that still happens a little bits here and there. I wish there was a little bit more of it. I wish there was a little bit more discovery of it. But then at the same time, I wonder, right, if everyone did know about those things, would it just become the mass-produced, homogenized mess that all the stuff that we grew up introducing people to has become, right? Because
That's
everything,
technically what we're dealing with now anyway.
right,
But
everything that
Right.
was niche, everything that was niche and no one knew about, that we exposed people to, now everybody knows about, and it's everywhere, and it's
well,
kind of turned into
and
garbage. But
that's where the thing is. That's where it goes, you know. So the nerd culture, or just like that niche, is now mainstream. So you got to wonder, do people actually like these things because they're being a little more open-minded to it? Or do you have those that are like, well, it's the hip thing, so I need to be hip, and I do this even though I don't like it? So
Yeah,
where's
it's
the
like-
where's the genuine feeling, or the genuine true likeness of something? Or
I mean, there's always been people that have latched on to stuff, right? There's always been the people that have felt the need to hop on whatever bandwagon is readily available to them, right? Of, hey, here's the group of people that I want to be, you know, that I want to hang out with. And even though I don't really give a shit about space magic and laser swords, I'll still watch it and talk about it and say that I enjoy it, because everyone around me in my group likes space magic and laser swords, even though I personally prefer the dude who's banging all the aliens and is shooting stuff with his little block of whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like it's really just a greater level of exposure that everybody has, that it's, I guess, more readily apparent, and you can have,
Mhm.
I guess, that level of you can find your tribe just about anywhere. But because all these companies are trying to cater to everyone instead of that audience, they're like, again, they have to homogenize it. They have to strip out some of the stuff that, you know, made it what it was, and just kind of make it bland and say, okay, y'all like laser swords and space magic? Well, here's a kind of generic thing again with your laser swords and space magic. Go and devour and give us money, and we'll continue giving more.
please consume and give us money to consume.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's,
Well, yeah, exactly. And I'm just posing these questions as in like talking pieces, because, you know, deep down, I do feel that way a little bit, because, you know, for me, you know, I never left these things. They were such a big part of my life. It's like they were what defined me. Now everybody else is defined by those things, but it's like you weren't originally.
Yeah.
I feel like it's not genuine. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like the culture of geekdom. Back
You know,
in the day,
I-
being a geek was truly meant something. Now everybody wants to be the geek and wants
It
to
wants
be
hip,
that.
wants to be that, because that's the popular thing.
Right.
And so how do you stand out in a crowd like that anymore? You
By
know,
being older and being one of the originals and being able to go back and say, I remember when this was actually this.
and then
back
you're
when
gonna get,
people
okay,
like
Grandpa.
yeah, I was about to
Okay,
say, but then
Grandpa.
you just get off my lawn guy
Yeah,
at
exactly.
that point, right? I mean, it's like, for some people it is legitimately genuine, right? So for some people it absolutely is.
Yeah,
It's their onboarding point. It's just, yeah, you almost
definitely
want
tell.
this onboarding point is fine, but hey, here's this story that I grew up with, and here's how it tells these stories and why I think it tells the stories a little bit better, and from that you can kind of grow their perspective to see, like, you can still enjoy the things that you got on with because now that's their nostalgia, but at the same time you can turn around and it's like what we do, right? We turn around, we look at some of the old cartoons and things that we watched growing up, we're like, wow, this is terrible, like just awful. What was I thinking when I was watching this once upon a time? But it was the thing, right, that drew you in, and now you can appreciate it for how it drew you in, but how you'd rather see the stories kind of
Progress
retold
better, yeah.
and done better, right? So it's making sure that you're not just being an ass, right? With this is the true whatever, right? Which,
Yeah.
I mean, it's there's a level of trying to explain to people how, like, a retelling of something is kind of a betrayal of the spirit of what it was, and then there's just being a dick,
Well,
right?
it's,
So
it's that brings up a whole different thing too, because um you can retell something without rehashing.
Right.
Yeah.
You can tell something in a different way that goes along the same points, but doesn't hit the same beats. Or how the journey you got there is different than what we did. And the sad thing is that, like we were talking about, having diversity. It's great. We should have diversity. We need more representation for people for the films and storytelling we tell, but we shouldn't do it at the sacrifice of the story as a whole, because then I think it loses the meaning of what the original story was designed to portray. Now, regardless of that is the point of, like, this author was crazy nuts for whatever his views were, or how he felt about certain points in society, the underlining message may be better than what the person who's speaking it.
I absolutely had to have my elf dwarf relationship in this Hobbit movie. I needed it. It had to happen. Fuck you, Peter Jackson.
And your double-sided disc.
Your double-sided discs and your dumbass elf. I don't even know what that was in the Hobbit movie, between
Yeah.
what's her face that didn't even exist in the books and whichever one of the hobbits it was. We
Come
need
on,
to have a
man.
look.
Come on, man.
We
She
need-
was eye candy in the movie. What are you talking about?
need
That
to
was
have
all
a
for.
We need to shoehorn in this love triangle real quick and just run with it, because that's what we needed to, that's what really brought the movie together, I guess.
That's what it is. You think about it. It was designed to put the hottest guy here for the girls to oogle over, and the hottest girl to be oogled over by the guys. So they're completely distracted by the story that's going on of Frodo dealing with.
No, Bilbo.
I know, but that's the point. You're so distracted that you can't pay attention to what the real story is.
The medieval Jersey Shore.
That's right. Well, it was terrible.
Poor Bilbo, who's like, hey man, this story's about me. Shut up, Bilbo. Your nephew Frodo just could have had the eagles drop the damn ring in the lava, and everybody would have been happy. He wouldn't have had to have been cursed and leave his friends and go to the magical land of the fairies and elves.
Yeah.
And this has been the Red Ad Podcast.
Red Hat Podcast.
What it turned into eventually. I mean, it's what happens when you start talking for too long, right? About, like, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, it's, yeah.
All jokes aside, though, movie rentals and game rentals were a great thing. I mean, being able to go into a place and meeting people, becoming friends, finding commonality between the movies you're renting. Because a lot of times, now everything's kind of like faceless. It doesn't have a meaning to it. It's, you like it, but you could break those boundaries and those walls that we put up on ourselves by going in. Oh, hey, this guy's renting this, or this lady's renting that. Wow, maybe I can go talk to them and meet them and stuff instead of being scared or prejudiced or whatever. You know, there was a lot of things that, a lot of boundaries that were broken with rental places. I felt you can make
Absolutely.
friends easily by doing it. Of course, you could make a clerk really mad by taking your movie back without it being rewound first.
See, that's how you bring prejudice back, and you
Yeah.
just start fermenting hate inside of people.
All right, everyone. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Down Level Podcast. We kind of went off on a weird tangent there at the end, but you know, tell us what your memories of going renting movies, and if you've never been to rent a movie, tell us about what you think it would be like. What movies would you rent if you got the chance to do something like that, if it was ever brought back? But I hope everyone enjoyed this conversation, and please like, comment, and subscribe. We'll talk to you later. See you next episode.
Deuces.